Okay, I know that looked really easy on the hood, but right now I'm going to go through some tips and tricks to show some of the issues you may encounter when you're doing this yourself. We'll walk you through what you might encounter and how to solve that. All right, let's get into it. In this segment, I'm going to talk about two scenarios you may encounter. The film may be too short on the edge, or the film may extend over the edge. You should expect, because of variations in the build, maybe a different temperature, maybe you stretch the film a little bit. This can happen, it's not totally uncommon. There are solutions for both situations. In the case of the film being too long, maybe you stretched it over or pulled it over the edge and it overhangs over the edge. If you're happy with the fit of the film on the panel, except for maybe one edge, no problem. When the film dries and it's completely dry a day later, maybe 2 days later, you can use the razor blade we've included to trim the edge. It's very easy to trim on a Cybertruck because these are sharp edges. These are not rolled sheet metal. So we'll get into that in another segment. Now, if the film is too short on one of the edges, after it's installed, there's a couple things you can do. Either we can pull the film entirely off, which we mentioned previously. You start to peel up a corner and you spray liberally with the slip solution. You can pull the whole panel off, put it back on, and recenter it. But let's say you have a situation where the driver's side is good and the passenger side is showing up short. I'm going to walk through how we're going to fix that. So this one we just laid out, and we put it on here specifically so it's short to the passenger side. It's shifted over to the driver's side. I'm going to start. Let me grab my squeegee here, my slip solution, and we're going to get the working area wet. Let's just start to soak this down. And then I'm going to pick a corner, and I usually take the squeegee and just pop that corner up, okay? And once that corner is lifted a little bit, it becomes easy to work with, and we're going to slowly pull this back and spray it down with the slip solution. Don't stretch the film, it should pull off very easily if you haven't used any of the stick solution anyway. Now, I'm going to pull this back. About a foot, maybe a foot and a half. And I'm going to spray everything down again with the slip solution. Okay. Then I'm going to grab my film and I'm going to pull it back out. Now this time, what I'm going to do, there's two options depending on how much you have to stretch this. I can very easily use my hands to pull the film a little bit to get it lined up. And I'm going to start in this upper corner. And I'm just pulling the film with the palms of my hands and getting it over and lining up this top corner. So I've stretched the film out, I've pulled it tight. And I have this upper corner perfect, and I've got the film stretched out to the end. I'm going to go up to the top and I'm going to squeegee that over. Okay? Now, I'm going to work my way down, and I'm just using this hand to hold the film a little bit stretched. Okay? So now this edge is perfect. I've stretched the film a little bit to get it lined up, and I can do the same. Pull this film out. I need to pull it down a little bit. Okay? And I'm just working my way down toward this corner. And I've re-squeegeed that into place. Now, if I go along, this edge is basically perfect. So, I can go back here and give it another final squeegee, and we'll do an inspection. I'm going to look for bubbles, wrinkles, any edges that are popping loose. And there you have it. So that's how we've stretched the film a little bit to get perfectly to the edges on either side. And since we only pulled the film back a foot and a half, the rest of that over there is perfect, hasn't moved. Now you see how to stretch out the edge of the film if you need to, and you can do that more than once as long as you're not using the stick solution. If you did it and you're not happy with it, spray it down with slip, peel it back and do it again, you'll get it perfect. In this segment, we're going to go through how to trim if the PPF is too long or extending over the edge of the door. First of all, I want to mention on a Cybertruck, the sheet metal is laser cut, so the edge is rough, and wrapping the PPF around the edge is not going to work well because PPF only sticks to a smooth surface. As soon as you try to wrap around the rough edge, you're always going to be prone to bubbles or peeling off. So we take the PPF to the edge of the door. If you lined it up perfectly with the edge of the door, you're done, you don't need to trim. If you have it where you've stretched it or you have a little bit over the edge, you need to go back and trim this. First of all, the PPF has to be completely dry. It needs to sit overnight. You need to be happy with where it is, and once it's dry, it's very easy to cut. We include 2 PPF cutting knives. These are razor blades, and they extend and retract, and each one of these pieces can break off. So you have a lot of razor. The key thing here is to always be very sharp, using very sharp part of the razor. So if you cut a panel, I would probably pop a piece off and keep working your way through the razors, or at least extend it out and stick to a sharp part of the razor. Now to get started, we're going to basically slice right into the PPF, and there's a lot of ways to do this, but what we like to do is get right on the edge, and I'm going to slice into the PPF. And now let's bring you in close, and I'm going to show you how we do this. Okay, I've got the knife slid through the PPF. I'm holding it with my finger. I'm going to hold it at a little bit of a chamfer angle and then just slide it down the door edge like this. A little bit of force to hold it against the door edge. And it's best to do this in a continuous motion. You don't want to stop. We're going to go all the way down, keeping a force on the edge. Careful around the corner. And that's it. I'll repeat the same thing going in the opposite direction. And that's where I started to cut, so I might have to catch that twice. Okay guys, that's it. That's how you trim the edge with the razor. Again, make sure you stay with a sharp part of the knife. You can move it out or break these pieces off. All right, it's not uncommon to have a little bubble like this. It looks like a finger coming up the edge. What we're gonna do is take our stick solution and just spray it up in there, and we can squeegee that out. And the stick solution will help hold that down. Okay, in this segment, we're gonna talk about how to deal with bubbles. First, let's level set. After you wrap it overnight, you may get some bubbles. We let this sit. This has been sitting for one night, and we have a couple bubbles. Give it a few days, and when it's in the sun, the bubbles usually go away. I would say I wouldn't do any bubble work until about a week later. After a week, if you still have a bubble, now we're gonna show you what you can do. All right, come up close and look at this. This bubble here, I can move it around. That means there's some air, there's some water. I'm going to poke a tiny hole into the middle of it with my syringe, and then I can suck it out, and then just use my finger. Okay, that should do it. Give it a few days in the sun, bubble's gonna be gone. That's it for our tips and tricks. You should have everything you need now to get a successful DIY PPF installation on your Cybertruck. Thanks again for tuning in.